The Gospel of John is one of the most mystical and unique writings in the New Testament. Unlike the other Gospels, it focuses less on parables and more on deep theological reflections about Jesus' identity as the Word made flesh. But, hidden within its pages lies one of the most debated mysteries in biblical scholarship. Was the Gospel of John altered to suppress the role of Mary Magdalene? Some historians and theologians believe that Mary Magdalene may have originally held a more prominent place in the narrative of Jesus' resurrection, only to have her importance diminished or erased as the early church evolved into a male-dominated hierarchy. Mary Magdalene appears prominently in all four canonical Gospels as a devoted follower of Jesus. She is present at the crucifixion when many male disciples flee, and she is the first witness to the resurrection in the Gospel of John. Yet for centuries, her image was reshaped. Pope Gregory I in the 6th century wrongly conflated her with a repentant prostitute, and she became remembered more for sinfulness than for her faithfulness. The question arises, was this character assassination intentional, and did it extend into the very texts of Scripture themselves? In John chapter 20, the resurrection account places Mary Magdalene at the center of the story. She comes to the tomb, finds it empty, and is the first to encounter the risen Christ. She is even given a mission: go and tell my brothers. In this sense, she becomes the apostle to the apostles, the first messenger of the gospel. But, some scholars point to the strange structure of this passage. Certain manuscripts and early church writings suggest that her role may have originally been even larger, but was later modified. Theories argue that John's Gospel might have been edited to replace or downplay her testimony, ensuring that male disciples like Peter and the beloved disciple retained primacy in the narrative. Evidence for this comes partly from apocryphal writings, such as the Gospel of Mary, discovered in the 19th century. In this non-canonical Gospel, Mary Magdalene is depicted as a trusted confidant of Jesus, receiving secret teachings that the male disciples struggle to accept. In fact, Peter is shown openly challenging her authority, which is a striking echo of the rivalry seen in fragments of early Christian tradition. If such rivalries were real, it is not hard to imagine why Mary's role in John's account might have been reshaped to maintain male dominance in the official story of the resurrection. The Nag Hammadi Library discoveries in 1945 added fuel to this debate. Texts like the Gospel of Philip describe Mary Magdalene as someone especially close to Jesus, closer than any of the male disciples. Some translations even suggest she was referred to as his companion or partner. While these writings were branded heretical by the early church, their existence suggests a contested memory of Mary's place in Christian origins. Did John's Gospel once reflect more of this tradition, only to be carefully trimmed and edited to fit the emerging orthodoxy? Of course, defenders of the traditional Gospel argue that there is no hard evidence of tampering. They point out that manuscripts of John are among the earliest and best preserved of the New Testament, and that Mary's prominent role as first witness to the resurrection is already remarkable in a culture where women's testimony was often disregarded in legal matters. Why, they argue, would an editor allow her to remain at the center of the resurrection story at all if the goal was to erase her influence? For them, her presence in John chapter 20 is proof that the Gospel's account is authentic and, was not meant to suppress her role. And yet the tension lingers. Was Mary Magdalene remembered as a leading disciple, a visionary figure whose authority, rivaled that of Peter and John? Or was she reshaped into a background figure, later maligned as a prostitute, just to ensure that leadership of the church remained firmly in male hands? The Gospel of John offers tantalizing hints but no definitive answers. Its language, its shifting focus between the beloved disciple and Mary, and the broader politics of the early church all invite suspicion. At its core, this debate forces us to consider how much of history and scripture is shaped not only by memory, but by power. Who gets remembered, who gets silenced, and who decides what orthodoxy looks like? Whether or not John's gospel was truly changed, The very fact that Mary Magdalene continues to inspire such debates shows her enduring importance. She may have been a silenced voice in history, but today she is being rediscovered as one of the most pivotal figures in Christianity's earliest days. So the question remains, was the Gospel of John subtly reshaped to minimize Mary Magdalene's role, or are we simply uncovering layers of forgotten tradition? The truth may never be fully known, but the mystery ensures that Mary's story and her possible suppression will never be forgotten.